morning. Welcome to Viewpoint, your program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. Happily, we're getting closer to the elections, and I'm going to have just forget politicians for a while. I want to keep my job, and otherwise I might say something and I get thrown out of the place, let alone off the air. So about
Jim's big enough to throw the both of us out.
Our politicians are a bunch of dandies. In any event, we have personalities and perspectives this morning. By the way, Judith Cave, instead of the usual kudo and something, we always try to start Viewpoint with a kudo, Stuart. But today I'm going to take a little license and just to stop for a minute and remember a lady who made an impression on a lot of lives, Charlene Bauer.
Oh, yes.
Finally signed the Golden Roster. And she made a huge impact on a lot of people, giving of herself all the time. She was a great nurse and a great lady, and she'll be missed. So I wanted to just kind of make that observation.
And I think pretty near everybody in town knew Charlene because she was such a hard worker and such a believer in the good in people.
Yeah, she was a giver, certainly was. Well, let's get right down to serious business because we have a serious young man here with us this morning. Have a favorite of mine. I don't know many, in spite of the fact that there were thousands of them right here in Knowlton County, in fact, many guys who slugged it out in Vietnam and came back in pretty doggone decent shape. And I have a lot of respect for Mr. Churchill, so why don't you just introduce the gentleman?
Well, among many, many other laudable things.
Well, you Presbyterians have a way of sticking together.
Stuart is a member in good standing of First Presbyterian Church in Lincoln.
Well, anybody paid a nickel's in good standing.
Huh?
Anybody paid a nickel's in good standing.
Well,
I'm glad I'm in good standing. I didn't realize that, but that's
yeah, but isn't that pleasant news
yes,
for a Wednesday morning?
Yes, it is.
Yes, yes. Well, Stuart's been busy, and he's going to be busier this afternoon because it's time for the annual pork barbecue at First Presbyterian Church in Lincoln, America.
And that's been going on many years, and it's kind of a highlight of the summer. People turn out from far. They even come from as far as Burtonville and Broadwell and Beeson to go to that.
See, look at that.
The 3 Bs.
I'm impressed, yes.
Well, heck, he came from Long Island all the way here to go to that.
Stuart, we appreciate you taking your time out of what time Linda's allotted you today to do your own thing. We appreciate seriously standing in for the Presbyterian Church in this annual barbecue. That's a big deal there at the church, and there's a lot of people who do a lot of work.
It is. It's the 39th year, and it's typical barbecue weather. We managed to enjoy the summer heat, but summer finally got here after our nice, cool spring, and we're gonna have. It starts at 4:30, runs to 7 today, and let me tell you what we're going to be serving here. We're going to have, of course, barbecues. We're going to have coleslaw or applesauce, potato chips, a drink, and dessert, and all types of dessert. We've got pies and cakes, and I'll be serving ice cream for a while, but I think today you might have to eat the ice cream rather quickly, or it's going to turn into soup probably.
That's right.
And we have a tent outside for those who enjoy this weather, and we'll have some entertainment out there. But inside we have air conditioned building, plenty of room for you. So come out and enjoy. The tickets before you get to the door will be $9. If you buy them at the door, they'll be 10.
Yeah.
So we serve, and I might have said this, we serve about 900 meals a year. This is our major fundraiser, and we hope to see everybody come out there and enjoy yourself.
One thing I like about First Presbyterian is the fact that they work awfully hard for this barbecue, but they don't set aside a nickel for this and a dime for that. They use it all for the community all the time, and they have programs ongoing 12 months a year. And I'd appreciate if you'd mention some of those, Stuart.
Okay,
please.
we've got, during the summer, we've got free programs for the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. We've got the Center for Creativity for Kids, so they can learn about their talents and everything and get to meet some other kids in the community. And we're involved in this Food for Thought program during the school year, where we provide meals for the kids over the weekends when they're not attending school during the week. So we're involved in a lot of programs throughout the community. It's basically all children, most of it's children oriented. So,
Well, I think that's important to note, because we have things for people like me that went over the hill, but we don't have as many. I don't think we have as many activities for kids.
yeah. And, we try to do what we can for the community. We're involved in a lot of different things. And we may not actually go out there and advertise that we're doing this, but we do a lot behind scenes, and we're helping as best we can throughout the community.
Yes.
In the more enlightened days, when they didn't get so stupid about religious education and mixing religion and education and it's a long story, but I don't want to get into that. Anyway, we used to have religious education as a part of the curricula at high school.
Mm-hmm.
Did you?
Yeah, and we'd go across, those who were in the Presbyterian church walked across the alley to their church, and the others went to their own churches, and we had an hour of religious education. That was part of the curriculum.
Oh.
And it was voluntary, it wasn't mandatory, and those are the good old days.
Jim, you're the youngest one in the room, you want to believe.
Disgustingly
Did you
so.
have a program like that in school? I don't even think I did.
The Presbyterian church is kind of near and dear to me, even though I'm down the street a block. See, they took a vote there one day, and I came up 3 votes short. So I just went down the street a block to another church.
But his mom stayed there.
That's my story, and I'm sticking
Yes,
to it.
okay.
No, when I was in high school, we had a fellow named Reverend Dan Kerr, who was a minister there, and he later became a Navy chaplain. And in time, I went into the Air Corps and was studying radio communications in Chicago. And one afternoon, Dan Kerr came sauntering in the museum there on Michigan Boulevard, and he was shocked to find a former parishioner of his standing there studying art.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
He figured to find me in a bar somewhere.
It's a small world. So.
It is.
It was. Yeah, he really was kind of really surprised to find out I was standing there looking at that stuff.
I grew up on, as you mentioned before, South Shore, Long Island, and went through elementary and high school, and I don't remember having, as part of the curriculum, any official religious type of training or whatever you want to call
Well,
it.
you're that much younger than I am, you see.
Well, that's true. I grew up in the 50s and 60s back there, going to school.
I was not only out of school, I was into the military by then. So, in any event, by the way, speaking of military, Stuart served his country faithfully, obviously, and luckily, he went to Vietnam. And I don't know a heck of a lot of guys that we've got hundreds of them here in the county, but I've never known many of them really well. And Stuart had an interesting job. He studied the Vietnamese language at the behest of his government. And I don't know your job over there, but it must have been interpretive of some sort. So I take my hat off to you, sir, for your Vietnam service. And I appreciate that. And
Well, thank you. I appreciate your comments. And I was stationed initially at the Defense Language Institute in Monterey, California for 8 months in 1969 when the moon landing was happening. And after that, I studied Vietnamese 8 months, the Vietnamese language, went over there and was a part of a 3-man team that worked with the Vietnamese military and some of the other organizations over there. And we didn't have a lot of American troops around us. We had some South Korean units and some Australian units, but we only had about 50 Americans in a MACV team I was assigned to. So it was a little different than the normal assignments that people were receiving in some of the large American units over in Vietnam. So.
Now, over there at that time, as you and I talked off air, by day they might be your friends, and by night, who knew what they were doing?
Well, that was a concern.
Yeah, always. By the way, Mr. Churchill came home with a Bronze Star, and
Not everybody did.
no, we salute him for that too.
Yes.
Let's get back to the Presbyterian Church and how much good they do in the community with their funds that they raise from such things as this barbecue. And by the way, you get your money's worth there. If you go away from there hungry, it's your fault.
Yeah.
They do a good job of serving.
And all those desserts that Stuart
Yes, the cakes.
alluded
ice
to,
cream.
there are going to be a whole bunch of ladies in their kitchen this morning, baking pies and cakes and cookies.
It's a good day to fire up that oven.
That's right. Keep the chill off.
So, with the monies from this and other funds that you raise, does the church governing body, sit down periodically and decide, well, we've got so much to give this organization, so much to give to that one? Is that how they?
Yeah, basically that's the way they operate. Yes.
So you're not only feeding yourself, you're contributing to your community when you go there tonight.
Yes, the community of Lincoln will benefit from the proceeds of this barbecue.
Yes, they will.
We look forward to everyone coming out and participating and enjoying the food, and especially the desserts. That's my favorite part.
Well, everybody who's ever been to the First Presbyterian barbecue, I think echoes your sentiments there.
I've noted a camaraderie there too. People see one another that they haven't seen in a while. In some cases, one barbecue to the next.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of nice little social gathering as well.
Oh, yeah. That's the thing about a project such as this. Not only is this going to do a lot of good for a lot of people, and as you mentioned, especially young people, but it's, where was I?
Well, I don't know.
I don't know. You were going somewhere, but
somewhere between beast and barbecue.
But it brings in the money to help the people.
Yes, it does.
And there's not any of it stuck in a sock in case the sidewalk cracks, so that we can get it fixed. It comes in and it goes out.
Yeah, exactly.
We have a little charity of our own up here. It's called the Sponsorships, and this programs like this, Viewpoint and Sunday Morning Swing, to say others.
Yes.
May I mention that?
Go ahead.
We depend upon sponsors, so we're going to take a few minutes' time and recognize them right now. Go right ahead, Mr. Ash. Welcome back to Viewpoint, at least. Welcome back to two viewers who are watching.
The both ones of it.
The both of them out there. Our guest this morning, Mr. Stuart Churchill, representing number one, his church, the First Presbyterian Church. You're having a big hoop-de-doo again. This is the 39th one?
Yes, 39.
And, God, I remembered that. I can't believe that.
Same age as Jack Benny.
Yeah, there you go.
First, good fundraiser for the Presbyterian Church and a good time for all. So go tonight. You'll enjoy it. The other thing that I want to mention, if Mr. Churchill is involved, is our American Legion Honor Squad, our military firing squad for those who have preceded us in death. They do a great job. Those of us who have been in the military kind of take a jaundiced look and make sure they're doing it right. Well, by golly, they do it right out here. As Stuart says, he tells the commander of the firing squad. We have one live one in the chamber left, so if you don't do it right, tough rocks. So let's talk about the military squad and what it does. Now, you just recently went down to Camp Butler again, which is
We went down to Camp Butler about a week ago. We have another funeral this Friday in town. What happens when a veteran passes away, if the family so desires, they notify the funeral director and they contact us, and we get everybody together to go out to the cemetery to fire a 21-gun salute. We fold the flag and present it to a family member. And last year we did about 40 funerals for veterans in the Logan County area. We probably go to Camp Butler 4 or 5 times a year, but normally we cover most. We've been to almost every cemetery in Logan County doing funerals. And some, I think we've gone over into Menard County once or twice. And so we try to provide the service to the family, and especially for the veteran who was it's important for us to give the veteran a good military send-off if the family
It's done
so
very
desires.
nicely. It's done in a dignified way. It's not drug out. It's short and sweet, as they say. But it's a nice service for a veteran, and some people don't realize that any of us who've put on the uniform, we can be quiet about it, but we're pretty doggone proud about that time we served our government. And I'm not looking forward to it, but I hope that they will have one for me when my time comes. But the families of the deceased get a chance to get that little recognition that, by gosh, Joe or Sammy, whoever, he served his government and he's proud of it. So it's a nice service.
And we play taps. John Sutton is our bugler. He plays taps live, and in the event that he can't make it, we do have a bugle with an insert that plays taps electronically, but John makes 99% of the funerals. It gets kind of difficult for him when it's 10 degrees above zero with a wind blowing, but other than that, we're proud of the service we provide and proud of the service of the deceased veteran.
My first exposure to the AirSats taps, as where they do it electronically, I was at Eminence. I think it was for Billy McCormick. And somebody who has a stature of, say, Leonard Kruzmark had the trumpet up to his lips, and boy, I said, man, gosh, I didn't know he could do that. Well, I found out later that was done
couldn't do that.
electronically. He couldn't do that, but that's a neat thing.
It is.
Not everybody in Burton View can play the
Well,
trumpet.
in finding a bugle player is getting more difficult too.
Oh, sure.
And
Well, anyway, it's a very nice service that the American Legion offers families who have servicemen, and it adds a little dignity to the service. We mentioned off air outside the studio here, Stuart, about Camp Butler and what a nicely run place that is. Very pretty, and the listeners, both of you, pay attention out there now. Camp Butler is worth the trip just to drive down and see it.
yes, it's a cemetery run by the Veterans Administration, federal government Veterans Administration, and it's well maintained. It's nicely laid out, and they still have room for graves down there. As a matter of fact, they have a section that they're expanding into a little bit, so it's got room to grow. It's a very nice facility.
And as I understand it, the spouse can be buried with their husbands
yes.
and or wives. There's some ladies down there who wore the uniform,
Yes.
and we always have to be cognizant of that because it just wasn't us guys.
No, that's right. There were a number of women who served in the armed forces for the various wars. So
Let's go back a little minute to the barbecue and talk about...
That's why we're supposed to be here today.
and talk a little bit about some of the programs. You mentioned that this summer they have several for the kids in the area.
that's true.
Now that's not for the Presbyterian kids.
No,
that
that's
is for the
kids in general
That's
from
right.
the city of Lincoln. And you don't have to be a Presbyterian to attend. The kids are welcome. And school is only about a month away now. And
Yeah, think of that.
so the summer's...
That's hard to believe.
Yeah, summer's going fast. But no, there's that, and then when the school year starts, we'll be providing lunches for the kids over the weekends because they'll be out of school.
Right.
So we do that. So there are a lot of programs we provide for the kids in Lincoln.
When you consider a whole church congregation, you cover a lot of areas of everyday life. For instance, nutrition, and obviously that's been addressed by First Presbyterian because they're very anxious that young people should have more to eat than chocolate chips because otherwise they won't going to be very smart.
Well, yeah, very good. Nutrition is an important item. And I know because I have a 7-year-old, 9-year-old that are around the house every now and then.
Yes.
7 already?
And if you
That's
offer
not
them
possible.
something...
9.
Oh.
7 and 9.
No wonder I'm old.
Henry and Theo, hello.
Yes.
If you're listening.
Yes.
There we go. Yeah. Come inside and listen to Grandpa.
They'll probably just tell them, oh, I've heard him before. So anyway, it's a lot of the programs address children.
Yes, very much so, yes.
And then, of course, there are plenty of things that are for the adults, too. Maybe we could...
Well, one of the things our churches do, they contribute to, and I'm sure Presby's are right in there with them, to the other churches. They are part of our food pantry.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Which is remarkably busy. I just say this as an aside. We seem to be kind of complacent in our little confines here in Lincoln, Logan. And we may not be as aware of other people's problems as perhaps we might be. Drive by the food pantry on the day they distribute the food and you're going to find there's a lot of need going on here.
Yes,
Yes, we do.
And the Presbyterian Church is one of those many who contribute to our food pantry, which does a whale of a job.
Yes, they do.
And the Presbyterians have stepped up to the plate in that regard. Definitely. What they do is either pick out or are assigned a couple, 3 items that they can use
Every
as
month
an emphasis.
it's a different item that they emphasize
Yes.
that we contribute. And I don't remember what it is this month.
A shower gel, I'm thinking, was one. And you read that in the bulletin and you think, oh, well, I better run to the store and get a couple bottles of this and a couple bottles of that.
There you go.
Yeah, and it counts up. If everybody brings a couple of each, pretty soon you got a pretty good
That's
basket full.
right. Exactly.
Now, I want to dispel a rumor. It's not true that you can take a 6-pack to the church tonight.
Well, I don't know they've ever thrown anybody out, but I don't know anybody's tried to bring that in.
I don't either. I imagine there'll be a lot of cold iced tea going out the door tonight.
Good lemonade, yeah.
Or
good summer
lemonade,
drink. Good
right, but I don't think hot drinks
Well,
are
as
gonna
we
be on
speak,
the
there are
list.
people at the church right now preparing
yes.
for tonight.
Yes,
Yes.
they are. They were there yesterday,
so
too.
Thanks to them. And usually, in almost in every case, in any given organization, there's kind of a little hardcore group
Oh, yes.
that does the same
yeah.
thing time after time, and thanks to them.
Amen. You said you're an ice cream dipper?
That's what I've been told I'm doing, yes.
Well, you ought to have a pretty busy concession there
I
then.
would think. I know there's some years I've actually gotten blisters on my thumb for scooping out ice cream. I don't think it'll stay very solid
Very long.
very long, and it'll probably be easier to scoop in this weather.
As I get older, I like to tell the story. One of my first jobs, I worked for a man who was a Lincoln man, had an ice cream place down in Springfield called B's Ice Cream. Bob Steinhardt was his name. And my first job, he was a stop where you drive up and you go out to the car and wait on them, take the trays out the car and put the little hooks over the window and then brace it down there. Well, my first car I served, I didn't miss the window and dumped a chocolate shake right in the lady's lap.
Like she
But I kept my
remembered
job.
you for a long time.
Now, you didn't use roller skates to roll them out.
No,
okay.
no.
Oh, all right. Well, I don't know.
If he had roller skates on, he'd right bend in the lady's lap right through the window.
It was not a very good start.
Not so much. Not so much.
The planning for these for this annual barbecue, we don't start last week. This has been in the planning for a long time.
Yes,
And you have to have a lot of discussions and do
that's
things
right.
differently.
And you have to estimate what you think, how many meals you're going to serve, how many meals that are sit-in, people will stay, or how many meals to go. And you have to have the boxes, and you have to have yesterday they were scooping the ice cream and to send out with the to-go meals.
Sure.
And there's a lot of planning involved. We have some dedicated people that have been working on this for months.
Yes. And they have to call everybody in the church and say, now, from this time to that time, would you do this?
Yes.
And I can't imagine anybody ever said no.
I don't know. But then I know somebody called me yesterday to make sure I was going to be here today. Well,
Yes.
you did too, but I missed your message, Bill. But you called me yesterday, or
That's
was
our
it the day
job.
before?
I was yesterday.
Yeah, it was yesterday. Okay.
Yeah.
That's our job, to make sure we're going to have a guest.
Otherwise, you'd have to talk by yourself for.
That's a long 45 minutes. Stuart,
I'll thank him when we get to the car.
the Presby Church has like a lot of our churches here, we go back a long way. And I always thought it was kind of interesting, the churches in that part of the geographic part of the town are so close together. Starting with Zion Lutheran over there in the corner, and then we come around and we have the Baptist Church, and we have the Cumberland Presbyterian Church, and the
Right.
Methodist Church, the Episcopal Church, and the Presbyterian Church, all within a ball field distance.
There you
of one
go.
another.
Yeah.
But way back when they built those, the population was either on the farm or in close to town. We didn't have Mayfair and Vredenburg and on and on and on.
648-5510. We might have somebody that have a particular question about this barbecue that the church has had for 39 years. And think of the amount of money that church has disseminated in the community over that period of time. The good that has brought.
Oh, yes,
So,
I'm sure it has. But you're a native, I'm not. So I've only been here 30 years, so I'm sort of a out-of-towner.
I got you about tripled. I remember.
You're just a newcomer,
Yes,
aren't
I
you?
know.
Yeah.
And
By the way, I want to put in a word for Mr. Churchill and his wife. What a great job they did with Angie. Angie was an employee of ours for a long time, and Gene and I always thought that she was a pretty outstanding kid, and
She
she
is.
hadn't changed a whip yet.
She is.
Yeah, so
Well, thank you. I'm sure. Yeah.
you can take a lot of pride in that. young
She
lady.
might be listening to you right now. You never know.
She'll call you.
Along with her boys.
648-5510. Subject, you wouldn't know it particularly. Subject matter this morning is the First Presbyterian Church and the annual barbecue fundraiser that they sponsor. Have been doing that now for 39 years. Jack Benny's age, as Stuart says. Are there any particular roadblocks that you've run into, Mr. Churchill, as you've gone down the road with these things? Run out of food or anything like that?
Well, basically, I'm I've got the easy job. I'm just sitting here talking to you. The planners and the people who've been working for the last few months are the real hard workers here. And I've got the easy jobs, just sitting here talking to you two and be scooping out ice cream, and Linda will be doing the desserts tonight. So, like I say, my biggest roadblock has been a blister on my dipping hand. But other than that, that was a couple of years ago. But
do they give you workman's comp when you get injured on the job?
That's a good. I think they gave me more ice cream or an extra dessert.
Oh, I see.
Which was just as good. So. But
of course, you had to dip the more ice cream.
Well,
I'm sure,
that's
with
true.
Your
well,
injured
I don't do it alone.
midgets.
There's two of us here.
Beyond all the great food, there's a social factor. People get together and visit that they haven't had an opportunity to do. They may see somebody that they haven't seen in a couple of months or
Sure.
more so.
That's right.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, very true. And some of our friends who live out in the country will be there sitting down having dinner with us tonight. And let me go over the menu one more time in case somebody just tuned in here.
Both of them.
Both of what?
Both of our listeners. I want you to
okay.
pay attention
All right.
out there.
I thought there were three, but no, I'm glad I was going to give you more credit.
The one got the flu, don't you know?
Oh, okay, I see. All right. Well, we're going to have the barbecue. We're going to have coleslaw or applesauce. We're chips. We're going to have a drink. I know there's iced tea. I guess there's lemonade too. I don't drink lemonade, but we're having dessert, plenty of pies and cakes, and we're going to have ice cream, and all for $9 prior. If you've already bought your ticket, or if you can catch a Presbyterian before 4:30, you might be able to get a ticket for $9.
There'll be people there who can
there'll
help
be people
them.
there, but
You bet.
if you wait till 10 or wait till you get to the door, it'll be $10.
Right.
But you might be able to catch a Presbyterian. And we do serve about 900 meals.
That's amazing.
A couple hundred will be to go, and about 700 or so will stay. It depends on the weather. I mean, people might decide not to stay and stay there and eat. Maybe they'll just take it to go and take it home, sit in front of their air conditioner.
Yeah,
You
right.
never know. So that's what we estimate. And anyway, we're looking forward to seeing everybody tonight.
Is that 900 representative pretty much of
It's been
the
pretty
annual?
steady. It's been pretty steady from my understanding anyway. So.
Now, for those of us who just insist on dining al fresco and want to sit out in the heat, they have a tent up out there.
Yes.
And in the past, the Lincoln Community Theater and LAMS, the Lincoln Area Musical Society, folks have furnished some doggone decent musical
Yes,
entertainment.
Good entertainment.
Yes.
It's definitely worth
Live
putting up with a
entertainment.
little heat to listen to the entertainment.
Yeah, really.
It's
and
excellent entertainment.
It's very enjoyable.
Yes, it is.
We have a lot of talent in this community.
Yes,
and
we
a lot
do.
of people who give of their time and their talent. I mentioned Lincoln Area Musical Society. The concert they put on at the high school, our summer band concert down there at
Yes.
Latham Park. We're lucky that these people will share their talent with us.
We sure are.
Especially on a night like tonight.
Oh, yes.
And if you want to eat outdoors, you may. We have straws that we can give you for your ice cream. So
There you go. We'll pour it in a cup for you.
there you go.
Take it.
Yeah, pretend it's a milkshake.
Pretend it may become one if you don't eat it fast enough.
If you
There.
aren't quick.
You're not quick.
You know, this is a child's dream. You'd have to eat dessert first.
That's true.
So bring the kids.
Bring
Yeah.
the kids.
It's interesting how this has kind of taken hold. 39 years ago, 40 years ago.
39 years ago,
somebody-
I could take hold. Silly.
At least you know where you were 39 years ago.
Well, it's better than today.
But that's interesting. Group at that time got together and decided they're going to do this and raise a little money for the church. And by golly, that thing took place like a vaccination. And it's still successful all these years later because people are willing to give of their time and their talent.
That's right. Yes. There's a lot of dedicated people, donate their talent, their time, and they're putting in their sweat today, or will be.
Hopefully not in the ice cream.
Not in the ice cream, no, but it's...
We have at our church a plethora of retired teachers. God
you mean a
love
lot of
them. More than a couple. And God love them. They work like stevedores. They really do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a retired teacher. I'm not even retired, actually, now that I think of it.
Well, we haven't gotten out the door yet.
Today could be the day.
That's not a given for the future.
That's true.
But, well, again, it's people stepping up to the plate and swinging the bat.
Oh, and they do. They do.
Every church
Bless their
has
hearts.
a certain hardcore.
Well, every organization does that.
Yeah.
We
well,
have,
here we are,
Yes.
the American Legion. Not everybody who's a Legion member, and I have been since 1946, come to think about it, can contribute like the Stuart Churchills and the Bob Sullivans and the Joe Shalers, those people who have talent and know how to do things and get things done to the advantage of not only the Legion but to the community.
yeah.
Amen.
For instance, the firing squads we mentioned, that's to the benefit of the community,
Oh, yes.
not just Legionnaires. There are some people who ought to be Legionnaires that never, for one reason or another, never got there.
That's true. But we have other organizations at Postville Courthouse. I'm the key holder, the head volunteer for Postville Courthouse. We have about a dozen volunteers, and 3 of us are, myself included, and 2 others are members of the Presbyterian Church, and we're out there several days a month and trying to keep it open because we don't have enough volunteers, and we're dealing with the state and their budget constraints, but we keep it going and try to, it's a little part of history in Lincoln here that not a lot of people know about, but we're just...
And that's so too bad, because it's so interesting. When we moved down here, as family would come and visit us, always took them to Postville Courthouse. It's an interesting thing. And there's a dandy museum out at the airport.
That's a heritage in-flight museum.
Yes.
Lincoln College Museum is wonderful.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, that really plays to those
Yes.
folks who come
And
there.
we send people there. We send them at Postville Courthouse when they're asking for things to do. We send them over to Lincoln College. We send them to the mill. And don't miss the world's largest covered wagon.
Right.
So
Right.
we're sending them, trying to get them to eat in town and, keep them in town as long as you can, as long as they'll stay, so they can spend some money in town. And
I live in the
tourism.
vicinity of that wagon, and it's interesting, weather notwithstanding, almost daily, you can see somebody who stopped to take a picture of that thing.
Sure.
It's amazing.
I'm out at the Legion quite a bit.
Yeah.
And there always seems to be somebody pulling in off the road, looking at it, walking around and reading things. I wish there was a way to count the people that stopped at that wagon, because I think we'd be surprised how many people it draws to Lincoln.
Well, the thing that's impressed me about this Route 66 mystique is the draw it has from abroad. Now, anytime I'm in town in Atlanta, I always stop at the restaurant out there.
Yeah.
And I always gravitate to the register
Right.
and read, and people from all over the world here.
Yeah.
And it's not unusual to see it in this heat, really unusual, but to see somebody biking through and riding 66 on a bicycle
yeah.
or a motorbike, whatever.
Not today, you may not.
Not today.
Oh,
Maybe
if they go
not.
fast enough,
But-
they get a wind chill.
When the day is over and it's time for a really good supper, and an opportunity to do good for a lot of people in our community. Please come to First Presbyterian Church at 301 Pekin Street in Lincoln, America, and have the world's best dinner. Stop by anytime today and pick up a $9 ticket, or stop by tonight, pick up a $10 ticket, and have a good $10 worth of supper.
There you go.
Well, Stuart, Churchill, thank you very much. We couldn't close any better than Judy just closed for this.
That's great.
Thank you, Stuart, for being
you're
with
welcome.
us today.
Anytime.
We appreciate it. We appreciate the work you do in the community. Every community has to have a few people who are willing to step up. And Stuart and some of his associates out there at the Legion do that on a regular basis, so we appreciate that. For Viewpoint, thank you very much. Judy, you've closed us nicely. We always try to close with Viewpoint with some comment, and I ran across one not too long ago. It said, "Be the reason somebody smiled today." Thank you.